Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video where we're going to be doing a guide for Switzerland for EU4 1.35 Domination. So Switzerland is a nation that starts off in southern Germany right here, and we do start off as part of the Holy Roman Empire along with everyone else, and Switzerland is a super fun and super unique nation to play as due to their amazing government reforms, the awesome mission tree, and the excellent national ideas that pretty much all focus on mercenary gameplay. Of course, in older patches, playing heavily with mercenaries was a lot more prevalent, but since mercenaries got updated to be basically all mercenary companies instead of recruiting them uniquely, lots of players don't play with mercenaries anymore. But make no mistake, with Switzerland you will be leaning heavily into that factor, and by using all of those awesome mercenaries that are super strong and super cheap as well, you will go on to expand in this sort of tri-point area between southern France, southern Germany, and Italy over here. You will go on to dominate your northern HRE minor neighbors, the southern Italian neighbors, and even France and Austria and Burgundy later on when you grow powerful enough. As Switzerland, we do start off with the unique autonomous Swiss cantons government reform, where merc companies don't cost us any army professionalism. We have plus 50% mercenary manpower, +1 free policies, and minus 50 gov cap, which is really strong. And obviously we're a republic, and this pretty nice mission tree right here gives us some claims around us and focuses on us developing our nation and religious stuff as well. And these awesome national ideas, starting off with minus 15% mercenary maintenance and plus 10% infantry combat ability, finishing up with plus 5% discipline, and in the meantime we have merc manpower plus 50% and plus 5% merc discipline, tolerance of heretics plus 2, minus 10% staff cost, minus 20% fort maintenance, and plus 25% fort defense, which of course is gonna make our Alps right here extremely defensive. Then we got a dev discount, yearly prestige, and production efficiency. All of these things that I just mentioned make Switzerland a super fun and a super unique playthrough to do. So sit back, relax, and learn what you need to do as Switzerland. Alright, here we are as Switzerland, and as always, the first thing we're gonna do is go into our estates over here and summon the diet. You can pick whichever agenda is best for you. Then we're going to give the clergy religious state, religious diplomats, and clerical education. We're not giving out the cheaper advisor privileges just yet, because first we do need to stab up. Then we're going to give the nobility primacy of the nobility, increased levies, and we're going to give the burghers land of commerce, patronage of the arts, and indebted to the burghers. Then we're going to seize land. As we can see for this mission right here, Consolidate Switzerland, we need our stability to be 1 and to be 90% of our force limit, and then we gain cores on the Switzerland and Romandy areas, which are pretty much these 2 provinces here and these 3 provinces here. That's how we're going to kickstart our campaign. So we basically need to get enough admin points to stab up, which we will be able to do in just a month, and then we just need to build up our army a little bit. We won't be focusing on mercenaries too heavily right away, but in about 10 or 15 years, we'll really get that ball going. And as you can see as Switzerland, right at the start, we aren't making too much money, but we can sustain going into debt a little bit. So that's why I do recommend hiring all 3 advisors. Get whichever level 1 admin advisor you want. I'm going to get this production efficiency guy. Get a diplorep or improve relations level 1 dip advisor. I do have this diplorep guy, so I am going to hire him. And then get a morale, discipline, fort defense, or manpower level 1 mill advisor. I do have a fort defense guy, so I am gonna hire him. And that's the advisors hired. Now we can also take our army over here and delete 2 cavalry regiments. These are pretty expensive, as you can see right now. These 2 cav regiments are costing us 1.1 ducats a month. Whereas look at this, if we hire the free company, it's only 0.29 ducats a month. So why use these horses when we can instead pay for an advisor for the same cost? So definitely get rid of the horses right there and instead go ahead and hire the free company. Next, it's time for some alliances, and I do recommend allying 2 or 3 nations over in the HRE that will help you out in your wars, and then try and go for a big ally, Bohemia, Austria, France, someone like that can help you fight some of the stronger nations over in northern Italy. In my case, I can ally France right off the bat here, and you can pretty much go with whatever nation you want to. Austria is a pretty good pick as well. So there we go, I've allied France just like that. Now with one of your free diplomats, you're gonna start spying on Burgonce right here. And this is because even though we can expand into these guys and these guys pretty quickly, we still want to find a way to break free from Switzerland. And obviously you're not going to be going into France or into Austria. So our expansion routes are in Italy, through Como right here, or through Savoy later on, and into the HRE only through Burgonce. This is because we border Austria here and here. Constance is a free city, so we can't fight them, so we have to go through Burgonce. So that's why we're going to go ahead and start spying on Burgonce. Once we get a claim on them, we're going to go ahead and start spying on Milan. And that's your initial setup done. All you're left to do is go ahead and set some rivals. I do recommend rivaling Savoy, Milan, and then whichever other nation you want to, I'm just gonna do Millhouse. With this other diplomat, you're gonna keep looking for allies. And once a month has ticked over, you should go ahead and boost your stability just like that, and we'll be able to take the mission Consolidate Switzerland, which gives us scores on these provinces right here. Now, at this point, December 1st, you need to check and see if you can fight the 3 leagues immediately, because sometimes they do end up with no allies on December 1st. In my case though, I don't have any luck at all because they've actually allied Savoy, one of the 2 initial nations that we want to fight, and this is actually horrible luck in my campaign. So right at this point, if the 3 leagues have no allies, declare on them immediately. If not, you're just gonna wait for an opportunity to declare on either them, Savoy, Burgonce, or Milan. In my case, I do have to wait a little bit. And because I am waiting, I will lower army maintenance and turn off my forts. You should do the same if you're not fighting anyone immediately. There we go, another month has passed, and these are the alliances that I've gotten. Brandenburg, the Palatinate, 3 electors, which are pretty strong. Keep in mind though that they can't vote for us because we're a republic, and another strong nation, which is in my game France. In your game it could be Austria, maybe Castile, maybe Bohemia, someone like that. The alliances aren't really too relevant for Switzerland. These are just basic guidelines. You don't have to ally these same nations that I'm allying. Once your alliances are in order, you can go ahead and start spying on Milan as well. Of course, if you didn't end up allying France, they would call you into the main war, and of course you would accept. You don't really have to do anything. In my game here, I can also ally Austria. You will be able to do the same if France and Austria aren't rivaled. I'm doing this so they can potentially help me out versus Savoy. Maybe later on though, after Savoy leaves the HRE. At a certain point, you should look into allying the Pope if you can. We do want to have good relations with the Papal State until the Reformation comes around, where we're most likely gonna flip to Reformed, which is probably the most fun religion you can play as Switzerland, you know, historically accurate and stuff like that. Obviously, it's probably not the most powerful, but I do recommend it simply for the uniqueness. Of course, after you've initially stabbed up, you can go ahead and give out all the cheaper advisor privileges, just like that. For your tier 2 government reform, I recommend going with one of political dynasties, republicanism, or this one right here for the manpower. Since we'll be focusing mainly on mercs, you don't really need this one, so that's why I recommend one of these 2. Either political dynasties or republicanism. If you're going with frequent elections for your tier 3 government reform, then I recommend republicanism. Otherwise, if you're going for consolidation of power, which is also pretty good, mainly for the estate influence reduction, then I recommend political dynasties. Now that I have Miltech 4 and my neighbors don't, and now that my allies are willing to join, I'll finally be declaring my first war, and you should do the same, of course, once you get Miltech 4 and your allies are willing to help. In my game though, I've been super unlucky with the alliances. Savoy and the 3 leagues are allied, Milan, the 3 leagues, and Burgonce are allied, so pretty much all of the nations that I want to fight and that you want to fight are allied. But if something like this happens in your campaign, you'll just have to work around it. Either way, I'm gonna declare the 3 leagues now, Brandenburg, and the Palatinate, and in this war, I'm only gonna white piece Savoy so I can fight them soon, and I'm gonna make Milan end their alliance with Burgonce. And there we go, there's my first war started. Ideally, your first war would be versus the 3 leagues as well. But like I said, if you can't fight them, if they've gotten strong allies, then declare on one of Burgonce, Milan, or Savoy. And once your war with the 3 leagues is done, of course you're gonna full annex them. It's gonna be no aggressive expansion at all since it is your cores, and you can go ahead and take all of their money. And that's your first war done. After you do that, you will be able to take the mission Integrate the 3 leagues, which gives us +2 Diplo rep and some development in the Switzerland area. After you wrapped up your first war versus these guys, if you have the opportunity, you can immediately declare on one of the 3 other nations that are remaining, since this was pretty much no aggressive expansion at all. In my game though, I have a truce with Savoy and Milan, so I might look into fighting Burgonce here. Whenever you can in the early game, you should go ahead and start spying on Burgundy right here. If you've managed to ally France or Austria or something like that, nations that can potentially go to war with Burgundy and beat them, you might want to get some claims on Burgundy here yourself, in case you get to join that war and maybe your allies will give you some provinces. After you've gotten Tech 4 in every category and after the Renaissance has spawned, you should go ahead and activate the Encourage Development State Edict in your capital state of Romandy right here and develop your capital Bern up to 30. It will be pretty expensive because it's hills, so that's why there's no need to actually fully spawn the Renaissance. Just develop it so we get a high development province of 30 dev, and it's pretty nice. It is a center of trade, it does produce iron, and if you can, definitely upgrade it to a level 2 center of trade before you start deving. If you have the money, of course. Now that a little bit of time has passed, I will be continuing my wars by declaring on Burgonce. In my case, they're actually a junior partner of Baden, who once again has these allies, Milan, always a thorn in our side, but luckily I can call in France, to help make this war easier. And in fact, I'm gonna call in everyone right here because we want to wrap this up quickly. So if you can do something like this, why not go ahead and do it? And once again, you don't have to declare on Burgons for your second war. You could have fought them for your first war, or you could fight them later on. We're fighting these guys so we can basically break out of Switzerland and start expanding over in this region right here. If you've managed to ally the Pope and you're in a war together, you will be able to take the mission Expand the Swiss Guard, where we gain an additional minus 20% mercenary cost for 20 years and 20 papal influence. And now that I've defeated these nations, I'm gonna go ahead and full annex Burgons. You'll be doing the same and taking all of their money. And that's your war with Burgons done. Now, the next nation that we need to fight in this direction after them is obviously Augsburg, because once again, Memmingen and Ulm right here, they're free cities. So we'll have to go around these guys to enter this region and over here. So start spying on Augsburg after you beat up Burgons. Once a little bit of time has passed after your second war, you're good to go ahead and continue with your third war, and at this point I still have the options of Savoy and Milan along with Augsburg right here. You're pretty much still fighting the same nations that I've mentioned. In my game though, I'm going to declare on Geneva right here, which is of course Savoy's subject, and because they do have quite a few allies, I'm going to call in France, Cologne, and the Palatinate to help me out. Ideally, you'd want to get your cores here first, but if not, you can go ahead and fight someone else like Milan or Burgons. But there we go, I'm going to declare for Geneva. We do have a little mission right here, of course, that can make Geneva our vassal if we take these two provinces, but there's really no need since we already have a core on them anyway. And in my game, even Austria right here, which is the Holy Roman Emperor, just accepted the call to arms, even though Savoy are in the HRE. Very nice. For your tier 3 government reform, you should either go with frequent elections or consolidation of power. If you want republicanism, then go frequent elections. If you want political dynasties, go consolidation of power. Now, ideally, when fighting Milan or any of the Italian guys, you'd wait until they leave the HRE, which happens after 1460, so you gain less aggressive expansion with these nations right here. In my game, I'm gonna do precisely that, even though I'm pretty much ready to peace out, just so I gain a little less aggressive expansion. And keep in mind, when fighting Savoy and their subject Geneva, we're possibly not only going for our cores, but we're maybe additionally going for something else over here, depending on our aggressive expansion. In your war with Savoy and Geneva, you have to take this, but you could, if you can, also take this. And now that Savoy has left the HRE and I have finished my war against them, and once you do the same, you should go ahead and take your cores back from Geneva right here, or Savoy and Geneva. And if aggressive expansion is good, if you haven't expanded a lot before this war, you should also go ahead and take Brescia and Chambéry right here. Later, we will be expanding into Italy down here. Don't worry about that just yet. At this point, I'm also going to take all of their money. And that's your war with Savoy and Geneva done. You've for sure gotten your cores back, and maybe you've also gotten these two provinces. Once you do that though, you will be able to take this mission where you gain some more dev in the provinces you just conquered. And if you took Geneva as well, which of course you should have, you'll be able to take this mission as well for 50 mil points. And then after you own the two Romandy and Switzerland areas, you will be able to take the mission Reorganize the Confederacy, which gives us a 10% advisor discount until the end of the game, along with permaclaims on these areas right here. Very nice. Whenever you can, of course, you should go ahead and take new burgher loans from the burghers and use that money to improve your nation. The first thing you want to start with is, of course, building centers of trade, just like that in your capital of Bern, and if you have anything else, in my case I don't. After that, you can continue with building churches in every province that gives you more than 0.1 ducats a month. Of course, don't forget to periodically lower autonomy. Once you hit Admin Tech 5, you will be able to take your first idea group, and of course, for your first idea group as Switzerland, I recommend mercenary ideas. This leans into the whole Merc thing even more. We get Merc bonuses from our missions, from our national ideas, from our government reform, the starting one, and later other ones as well, and of course Merc ideas right here. We gain a 25% mercenary cost, a mill advisor discount, and can recruit mercenaries from anywhere, which is super strong. Then we got Merc maintenance, mill tech discount, war taxes cost minus 50%, and Merc leader army tradition plus 50%. Then we got infantry combat, along with the starting infantry combat right here, which is really strong for us. And then of course we got Merc manpower as a finisher, and they can drill as well. And then we got some condottieri and even more mercenary discipline along with the one we already have. So Merc ideas for your first idea group. This is a must in a Switzerland playthrough. Pretty soon you won't even have to run regular armies. Of course, whenever all of these guys are above 50 loyalty, make sure to seize some land as well. And as we can see by this point in the game, my Switzerland economy has already stabilized quite a lot. I'm making about 10 ducats with armies down and forts down as well. Of course, a little less than half of this is from war reps and knowledge sharing, but even without that, I'd still be making about 5 ducats a month. pretty good, you should be in a similar situation. After a little bit of time has passed, you can continue with your wars by declaring on the German guys or on the Italian guys. It's totally up to you. Because I just fought Savoy, which is technically an Italian nation, these guys are a little more mad at me, so I will continue my wars over in Germany by declaring on Augsburg, of course. They're allied to Salzburg and Constance, so I'll call in just a couple of my allies to help out. Of course, at any point when you get into a war versus a free city, not directly of course like I am right here, you could look into annexing them without even co-belligerenting them. That is of course going to be quite a lot of aggressive expansion, but it's pretty much the only way to conquer these free city guys without having to fight the Emperor as well. In my game, I won't do it right now, but later I will look into it by fighting a Constance, Memmingen or Ulm ally. Additionally, I did forget to mention that the merchant setup as Switzerland is kind of wonky, and in order to minimize aggressive expansion right now, since we're not making that much money from trade either way, you're going to want to tell one of your guys to collect from Genoa and the other guy to collect from Rhineland or Vienna and not focus on maximizing profit, but instead you should establish communities. Now that I defeated Augsburg, I'll be full annexing them. You'll pretty much be doing this with whatever nation you're fighting here, unless they're of course too big. Even though your economic situation as Switzerland will have improved by this point, there aren't really too many ways to make money over in this region right here in these inland-ish trade nodes. So the main ways we're going to look to make money as Switzerland is expanding down here in Italy to take major control of the Genoa trade node, and later of course once we grow powerful enough to fight Austria by taking control of their gold mine in Intal. Once a little bit of time has passed after you fought the German guys or after you fought the Italian guys, you should move on to fight the other one that you didn't fight in your previous war. Because I fought Augsburg, now I'll be continuing, or actually starting my conquest over in Italy by declaring on Milan. You will most likely start your conquest in Italy by fighting Milan as well, and of course we're going to declare for Como right here, and we are going to have to be pretty careful with these guys as well, because even if you conquer low dev provinces here, it's a lot of aggressive expansion because we're in the HRE, and over here they're high dev provinces, so it's still a lot of aggressive expansion. So after our initial 2 wars as Switzerland, where we took back our cores, the next wars are going to be taking 1 to 2 provinces in each war and expanding very, very slowly. So I'll be declaring for Como right here, and I will call in a couple of allies to help out. In my game, the Burgundian succession has just happened, and it seems that they went with Sweden, which is pretty unusual, but when it does happen, there might be an opportunity for you to fight them depending on what happened. Either way, for your first stage ability, you should definitely go with Justified Wars. For your tier 4 government reform, you will want to go with Lands for the Church, although later, if you do choose to flip out of Catholic into Reformed or Protestant, you might want to look into getting some of the other ones, because some of them might be better for Protestant or Reformed. But for now, when you're Catholic, definitely Lands for the Church. Once you wrap up your war with Milan, of course you're gonna go ahead and take the province of Como, and then if you have low aggressive expansion, you should also go ahead and take Milan, but if aggressive expansion is a little higher, you should instead take Novara. It's totally up to you and the circumstances in your game. In my game, I am gonna take Milan right here and humiliate Milan as well. And that's my war with them done. When you do end up getting Milan, I do recommend deleting the fort there. In my game, I just got new burger loans right here, and of course, after you've built up all the relevant marketplaces like I have and all of the churches pretty much, and you're at Admintech 6, you should go ahead and start building workshops because they are super valuable, because we do have so many high value trade good provinces that we own and that we will continue to own. I already built one in my capital Bern, which produces iron, and now I'm gonna build some more in the high value trade good provinces. Even though you're making less money from them right now compared to, let's say, Zurich right here, which will give us more money, keep in mind that you will be developing those provinces later on in Diplo points when you have some spare ones, and of course you will be lowering autonomy there, so you'll be making a lot more money. So this is preemptively getting ready for the future. Even though we won't make that much money right now with these workshops, later, since those provinces will end up getting developed, you will. When you get 3 mercenary companies like I have right now, I got the 2 free companies and these guys right here, you will be able to take the mission mercenary companies, which unlocks the Swiss Home Guard mercenary company. As we can see, these guys are pretty good. After you've taken a chunk out of Milan, you should go ahead and spy on some other nations that you border over in Italy. In my case, that would be Milan once again, Venice over here, or maybe Savoy. It's totally up to you which nation in Italy you fight and spy on. You should, however, focus slightly more on nations in the Genoa trade node rather than Venice. So that's why I'm gonna spy on Savoy. Now, because we do start off with a less governing capacity than normal, which is usually 200, we got 150, and because we're in the HRE, for now at least, we're stuck with a duchy rank, so you will have a little bit of problems with governing capacity in the period up until you get Admintech 8 and you can start building up the courthouses. So, if you do end up finding yourself above GovCap, you should definitely go ahead and give one of these guys the governing capacity privilege. I'm just gonna give it to the nobles, give it to whichever estate has the least influence in your campaign. You will lose Crownland for this. Once a little bit of time has passed, you can continue with your wars by pretty much fighting any nation over here that you have claims on, and if you don't border them, you can just vassalize them. The reason I'm not declaring on Ingolstadt just yet right here, even though they're probably the next nation I'd want to go through, is because I'm waiting for this right here, the transfer subject at half cost age ability, which will enable me after fighting Ingolstadt right here to get Landshut transferred over to me as a vassal for very little aggressive expansion and war score cost. So for that reason, I'm not fighting them. Who I am going to declare on though is Millhouse right here for no particular reason other than the fact that they have a Swabian city-state national ideas, which also have insane fort defense and mercenary modifiers just like us as Switzerland, and this is just a fun little quirk, not something you need to do or vassalize or something like that, but they are pretty easy to fight since they're only like the Trier. So I'm gonna go ahead and fight Millhouse here, vassalize them, they're gonna have the same merc bonuses as me, which makes the game pretty fun, and then later on I will go ahead and fight Ingolstadt to get Landshut and the province of Donauwörth as well. I'm gonna call in Köln. Once you hit admin tech 7, it will be time for your second idea group, and for your second idea group as Switzerland, I do have 3 different suggestions. You could go with infrastructure ideas right here, which isn't really that powerful, but we do gain another plus 5% merc discipline with the policy, but then again, these bonuses are pretty good for us. The dev cost meshes well with the dev cost that we already have. The fort maintenance is once again excellent for all the defensive bonuses we're gonna want to get, and all of the other modifiers are really nice as well. Then you could also go with espionage ideas. This isn't a meme idea group anymore, let's be real. The policy with mercenary ideas is pretty nice as well for even more fort defense right here, and it will enable us to expand a little quicker than we normally would. And then if you want to expand rapidly once again, you could also go with diplo ideas right here to help you manage the HRE game, take more provinces due to the province war score cost, avoid coalitions, get a nice diplo rep and stuff like that. So those are your 3 options in my opinion for your second idea group as Switzerland. Another alternative would be admin ideas, since they're pretty good for the CCR, admin tech discount, the autonomy change, the advisor things, and of course for the governing capacity as well. So those are 3, maybe 4 idea groups you could go with for your second idea group as Switzerland. In my game right here, I feel like it would be best for me to take diplomatic ideas because I do need to improve relations with a lot of countries, spy on a lot of countries since we don't get a lot of claims, and diplo I think would be pretty good. But you won't make a mistake with either one of admin, infrastructure, espionage, or diplo. Now that I've defeated Millhouse, like I said, I will be making them my subject. Of course, if you're fighting a nation that you border, you will be annexing them. There's really no reason to make subjects over here, unless you've got too much aggressive expansion and you want to minimize it just a little bit. For your second age ability, I do recommend transfer subject at half cost and claims bordering claims. This is so you can spy on nations that you don't border, and of course, so maybe you can take advantage of something like this that I mentioned earlier. At this point, we're pretty much shifting our expansion focus from over here to over here after each war. Now I just fought Millhouse, my next war is gonna be versus Savoy right here. It is time to start pushing further into Italy since the aggressive expansion is good with these guys, so I'll be declaring for Torino and maybe a little bit more. I am gonna call in France and Austria here since they're allied to Naples and Florence, which are kind of annoying. If you're going through your modifiers right here in the government tab, and then right here you can scroll all the way down at this point to check out all the mercenary bonuses that you're getting. In my case, it's been about 30-ish years since the game has started. We already have an almost 50% merc discount, plus 15% mercenary discipline, plus 50% mercenary leader army tradition modifier, minus 30% merc maintenance, and plus 150% almost mercenary manpower. Very nice bonuses, and we're gonna get a lot more of them too, because for our third idea group we are gonna be going Pluto. There are even more merc bonuses with Pluto right here, so that's super strong. And keep in mind, you'll be getting bonuses from the policies as well. Now that my war with Savoy is finished, I'll be piecing them out. I'll be taking only the provinces of Torino and Montferrat since France has occupied the rest, but either way, once again, you're at most taking 1 to 2 provinces due to the aggressive expansion, so even if I occupied all of this, I still wouldn't be taking anything else. Sure, maybe I would have gotten this instead of this, but it's pretty much the same. No money, no war ups this time. I want the truce to be short so I can wipe them out later. But actually, they've also been declared by Genoa, so they could get full annexed, so in fact, I am gonna take all of their money and war reps because they might not exist. And that's my war with Savoy done. As you can see, the expansion is going slowly, but it is going along very nicely. By this point in the game, I got about 250 dev, which is pretty standard. You of course could be a little more aggressive than this. For For your tier 5 government reform, we do have a unique one right here, the Swiss mercenaries, which once again leans into the whole mercenary thing right here. As we can see, merc companies no longer cost army professionalism. It's not just the Swiss Home Guard. And we have the mercenary militarization ability, which I will explain very soon. But then once again, we got minus 25% merc maintenance, even more merc leader army tradition, mercenary discipline even more, and then plus 50% possible condottieri, which of course we're not gonna take advantage of too much. You may notice that the other mercenary reform from here is missing, but don't worry, we don't need it at all. Of course, since you're leaning into the whole merc thing, definitely go with Swiss mercenaries. And this is the whole mercenary militarization mechanic. It's over here in the government tab, just like the regular Prussian one. And as we can see right here, right now we have 0, and this has the base effect of minus 10% merc maintenance, which is excellent. But all the way at maximum, we gain another plus 25% mercenary manpower and 10% mercenary discipline. So with that, we'd be way above 130, and it's super strong. And the best thing is, it only costs money to increase it. As you know, with Switzerland, we already are making quite a bit of money, and later once we expand into Genoa even more, and once we get the gold mine from Austria, we'll be making even more. So just to showcase this right now, even though I don't need it, I will be taking burger loans right here, which are quite large in my campaign. And there we go. You can go ahead and spend money to get mercenary militarization. I'm gonna bump it up to about 50 right here, and we can see the following effects that are active right now. Super powerful. Actually, I'm gonna bump it all the way up simply for fun, because I've already built all of the relevant buildings and don't need the money for anything else. Of course, we do lose this each month, so no need to always keep checking and bumping it up. Maybe you would want to max it out before a big war or something like that. But either way, extremely powerful, and a very fun and unique way to play a nation. And by the way, look at these merc generals that we're getting. I just got rid of my free companies and instead got the Swiss Home Guard. Look at this general, a 5 siege guy, absolutely insane, 6-3-3-5, and this other guy right here is a 3-5-3-3 guy, and my regular general is a 3-4-3 guy, which is absolutely insane. No other country in EU4 gets mercenary modifiers like this. A very cool way to play. Now that I cored everything up that I took from Savoy, once again I'm shifting my conquest opportunities from Italy to Germany by declaring on Ingolstadt right here. And actually it's the other way around, not like I said earlier. Actually Landshut is the senior partner and not Ingolstadt, so I'll be getting Ingolstadt instead of Landshut. There we go. We can simply go ahead and declare on them, call in France and Cologne, and we can get this war started. And now that I wrapped up this war, I'm gonna go ahead and peace out. And basically this is the difference between the regular option and the one from the age ability. As we can see, if we want to regularly make Ingolstadt right here with 3 provinces, this one, and this one are subject, it's 36 war score and 35.3 aggressive expansion. A coalition could form. But with the age ability one, it's only 18 war score. Yes, it does cost us more diplo points like this, but it's only 21 aggressive expansion. Actually, a pretty big difference over in the HRE, a 15% difference. And of course, I'm also going to get war reps from Landshut and all of their money. And that's that war wrapped up. Now I have another vassal. If you do end up getting 2 vassals, you could of course always give the nobility the strong duchies privilege. Keep in mind on their influence though. When you hit admin take 8, of course you're going to want to start building courthouses immediately, because like I said earlier, we will struggle with GovCap. And by the way, I'm not fighting anyone, just helping out my ally Brandenburg. Now that I've chilled a bit after vassalizing Ingolstadt, I will of course be continuing my wars in Italy by declaring on Milan. At this point, they are guaranteed by Venice, and Venice is pretty powerful in this campaign. They have expanded quite a lot, so I'll just declare for Novara right here and call in everyone, because I will need their help to beat up Venice. And there we go. We're fighting in Germany, then in Italy, then in Germany, then in Italy. Pretty soon, we'll be turning our back on Austria as well. And now that I've defeated Milan, I'll be taking the provinces of Novara, Pavia, and Cremona, and pretty much completing my conquest of Lombardy over here. It is a bit of aggressive expansion, but I know that I will chill for quite a few years until my next war, so that's why I'm okay with this. I'll also get war reps and all of their money. And there we go. By this point, you should have a good foothold in Germany and in Italy as well. It may not seem like a lot right here, but keep in mind, we got 4 more provinces right here. Once you've expanded quite a bit and you feel like you're powerful enough to take on Austria, you could possibly look into that. Now, according to our mission tree right here, if we build 3 basically level 4 forts in the mountain provinces, the one that's highlighted on the map, then we gain plus 10% fort defense, and then we'll also be able to take the mission Protect Against Austria, which gives us a permaclaim on the Tyrol area, which is this right here. Now, of course, you can build level 4 forts all the way at Miltech 14, so what if you want to expand into Austria before that? that? Well, that's why I recommend breaking your alliance with Austria if you were ever allied, of course, and then spying on them. As we can see in my game right here, France would help me out, and with just me and France, I feel like we can totally take on Austria. So that's why in my campaign right here, I'm gonna dissolve my alliance with Austria just like that. It may not be a good idea to make the HRE Emperor angry, but listen, this gold mine right here, these two provinces, the iron and glass one, and then this iron province as well, they're gonna be of major use to us. So you probably do want to fight Austria before your mission tree tells you to. Of course, we should end the Habsburgs according to this mission as well. So there you go. Before getting ready to fight Austria, of course, you should look into allying Austrian rivals. In my game, that's the Ottomans and Sweden right here. And Sweden, I can probably link with. The Ottomans, not so much. But maybe someone like Poland or Bohemia would be able to help out as well. And there we go. In my game, I can go ahead and ally Poland, which has Lithuania and Anhalt as junior partners, and I can ally Sweden as well. These two nations can potentially help me versus Austria. Of course, Austria's power will be different in everyone's game. They may have gotten Burgundy in your game, they may have gotten Hungary, Bohemia, something like that. In my game, their alliance situation isn't too bad, aside from the fact that they're allied to Aragon, which is pretty powerful, but we should be able to deal with it either way. Well, I didn't know you could get Da Vinci as Switzerland. I thought it was only possible with Italian nations. Maybe it's because we have provinces in Italy, but there we go. You can gain some of these unique advisors right here, like Michelangelo, Da Vinci, and stuff like that. Usually you get it as an Italian nation, but he's a steel 3 production efficiency guy who's 50% cheaper, and we gain some points for him as well. Obviously, you should go ahead and hire him. Here's another mercenary modifier check about 40-ish years into the game. As you can see, we got minus 61.3 merc cost, plus 18.8 discipline, plus 83% leader army tradition, minus 36% maintenance, and plus 151 merc manpower. Absolutely insane. And that's even with no max mercenary militarization. Either way, I am going to go ahead and bump it up all the way to the max, because pretty soon I'll be fighting Austria. And now that my truce with Austria has expired, and pretty much whenever you're ready to do so as well, you will go ahead and declare on Austria. I'm going to declare for Sundau right here, calling Sweden, France, and Cologne. It seems that Poland will help me out, but it's no big deal because we can still defeat them. And whenever you grow a little bit in southern Germany and in northern Italy, you're good to go ahead and take on Austria and start making some real money from the golden intal. And there we go. There's my declaration. You don't have to do this right now at the same period I'm doing it in. You could, of course, wait for your mission tree. You could have done it earlier or later. It all depends on everyone's game, but you will end up fighting Austria for sure. For your tier 6 government reform, I recommend going with supremacy of the Diet. Don't swap to a monarchy or anything like that. And when you wrap up your war with Austria, no matter when that is, of course, you are going to be taking the province of Intal, the gold mine, which is the most important. And then you should also go ahead and take 1 to 4 more of these provinces, Sundau, Breslau, this one, and this one. So you have to take Intal, and then however and whichever of these other 4 provinces you want. I, of course, am going to take Intal right here along with these 2, and that's about enough aggressive expansion for now. Later, we'll fight Austria some more, so we're in no rush. I'm also going to get war reps from them and all of their money. And that's my war with Austria done. No risk of a coalition either. Perfect. Now we have a gold mine. You should, of course, core this up, state it, activate encourage development, and dev it up to 10 production as soon as you can. After you fought Austria, of course, you are going to have bad relations with them since they will usually be the emperor, but what you should look into after that point is trying to ally all or as many of the electors as you can. In my game, I've been allied to Cologne and Brandenburg for the entirety of the campaign. I was allied to the Palatinate earlier, that got broken somehow, but as we can see, to dismantle the HRE, I need to control or be allied to Bohemia, Mainz, the Palatinate, Saxony, and Trier, along with Austria's capital. So if I go ahead and try and ally all of these other electors, which of course may not be possible, and then just occupy Vienna, I could dismantle the HRE. This is something you should look into doing after you go ahead and fight Austria. If you can, of course. Later, we will get the option to leave the HRE anyway, but even if we do leave, we're gonna have to fight the Emperor every time we want to expand over here. So, dismantling the HRE, it is a good idea as Switzerland. You can't become the Emperor either way because you'll be a republic unless you flip to a monarchy. Now that I've cored up Intal, I will be activating encourage development over there in order to bump it up to 10 production so we can make some very nice income from gold. It will be pretty expensive since it is mountains, but of course you will push through it because it is worth it in the end. And there we go. Of course, lower autonomy as well. And there's some nice income from gold as well. And by the time colonialism spawns, your game should look a little something like this. Basically, we start off as Switzerland in these couple of provinces right here and kickstarted our mission tree by getting cores on these provinces and these provinces. And of course, you should have fought your initial wars versus Geneva and Savoy versus the 3 leagues, Burgance or Milan. And this is pretty much the area we've been expanding in. After you got your cores back, you continued to push over in southern Germany and northern Italy, basically swapping your conquests, fighting once here, once here, once here, once here, in order to minimize aggressive expansion with the different culture groups in the HRE and non-HRE members. And by around this point, you should look a little something like this. You might not think we've been doing a whole lot of expansion, but you should have a pretty sizable foothold in northern Italy and in southern Germany as well. I own additional 4 provinces right here thanks to my subjects, and we will continue to push on through those guys. And you could have also possibly fought Austria to get the gold mine from them, and you could have possibly gotten these provinces from Savoy as well if France didn't gobble them up earlier. And by this point in the game, I have about 360 dev right here, which is pretty decent as Switzerland. Of course, after this point, you will continue to expand in the same directions we've already been expanding in. If you've managed to ally France in the early game or maybe even later, they will be your ally over on this side, because we really don't care about expanding over here too much. Our main expansion opportunities are over here, but of course later, once you do grow powerful enough, you could go ahead and push on into France to take a little bit of control of the Champagne and Genoa trade nodes if you so wish to do. But you'll be mainly expanding over in northern Italy. Like I said, one of the ways to make money as Switzerland is by getting the gold mine from Austria and by taking control of the Genoa and Venice trade nodes, because we do start off sort of landlocked right here. Those will be our main sources of income, and you should continue to tell these guys to establish communities for the foreseeable future. So you'll continue to do the same. Fight the German guys, fight the Italian guys, fight the German guys, fight the Italian guys, and later on, if you do have an opportunity, like I said, you should go on to dismantle the HRE, because you do end up leaving it over here from this mission anyway. And right now, the thing that's holding you back the most is most likely governing capacity if you haven't been focusing on that. But aside from that, the next thing that's holding you down the most is the aggressive expansion with all of these minor nations over here. But keep in mind, later it will become less and less of a problem, and you'll go on to dominate this entire region right here. Obviously, if you're going for the Switzer Lake achievement, you don't want to take coastal provinces, but actually you can take coastal provinces later on at the end of your campaign. All you gotta do is give them to your subject, and you will be able to get that achievement. Of course, by this point as Switzerland, you should have super powerful mercenary modifiers as well, which we already went through them quite a lot. No other nation in the game is like this. And speaking of all those modifiers, we get them from our missions, we get them from government reforms, we get them from our national ideas and idea groups as well. Of course, by this point, you shouldn't have only been focusing on growing your nation through warfare and through vassalization and stuff like that. You should have been focusing on improving it economically as well. I have marketplaces in the 2 center of trade provinces that I own. There is a lack of those in this region, I'll give you that, but definitely go ahead and build up as many courthouses as you can. This is the ones I've built in my game so far. A bunch of army buildings in the grain and livestock provinces as well. Definitely make sure to build those. Lots of workshops in the heavily trade good provinces, and quite a lot of churches in pretty much every single province. That gives me more than 0.1 ducats a month. This is what I've done so far. You should have built something similar by this point in the game as well. Of course, as Switzerland, we will gain control of a couple of great projects around us right here, which aren't really too relevant for our campaign, but you will want to build them up whenever you can. The one in Intal is good for the army stuff and the defensiveness. The Ulminster is pretty nice as well, and the one in Milan is pretty good too. These are mostly the ones you'll get in the early game and the mid game, maybe even for your entire campaign. No need to really focus on any of these, but definitely do upgrade them whenever you can, because after the initial 15 or 20 years as Switzerland, you will be making pretty good money, but you do need to continue to scale, remember that. So always use your spare points on deving and stuff like that. Obviously, we opened up with mercenary ideas. Then for your second idea group, I recommended admin, infrastructure, espionage, or diplo. No matter what you went with your second idea group, for your third idea group, it should be a mill one, and it should be plutocratic ideas. All of the modifiers right here are really strong for us. The dev discount, the goods produced, the merchant, the reform progress growth, and the mercenary stuff as well. And of course, for your fourth idea group, you should take one of the ones I already mentioned, so admin, infrastructure, diplo. If you didn't take espionage for your second one, then don't take it later on, you won't need it. But of course, for your sixth idea group, you should definitely go defensive, lean into the whole Swiss defensiveness thing, and then it's up to you. So pretty much the main focus is the mill focused idea groups here: mercenary, Pluto, and defensive. And after that, these other ones are mostly up to you, depending on what you want to do. This is what we took for our first 6 government reforms. Like I said, if you flip to Reformed or Protestant later on, you could look into some of these other ones, but it doesn't really matter too much. For tier 7, you should take administrative divisions. If you still have the same government type, it will help you out with GovCap. For tier 8, you should empower the burghers or embrace the economic theory. theory. For tier 9, you could go consolidation of power or broaden executive powers. For tier 10, all of them are pretty good. Go with whichever one you want. These all give you military policies. This one is pretty good too for the years of separatism, and this one as well for the same reason. For tier 11, I recommend citizenry. For tier 12, I recommend appointment by committee. And for tier 13, all of them are really good if you even get that far and you're still a republic. And like I said, by the time colonialism spawns, your game should look a little something like this. If you're not that confident in your abilities, or if you're not sure if your game is going to go like mine, this save file is available for all YouTube members in the Save Games Discord channel, and you can continue playing as Switzerland from this stage forward. Let me know in the comments below what's the next nation that I should do a guide on. If you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to leave a like. It really helps out a lot. And if you like the content and want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of them. And you can become a member today and join the Discord. The link is in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with another EU4 video.